5 years. I worked at that company for 5 years. It wasn't just a place I went to from 9 to 5, it was a second home. I was a project manager at a small tech company in Austin. We developed software for small businesses, not something flashy, not Google or Tesla, but useful, real. I knew we were making people's lives easier, and I liked that. But what I loved most was the atmosphere. Every morning started with a friendly good morning in Slack, a cup of coffee, and a little sharing of news. We were close. We knew everything about each other: who was on vacation, whose kid was sick, whose husband messed up again. My colleagues were almost like family. We had Friday lunches, Christmas parties, little kind traditions. One time, I brought homemade cupcakes to the office, and since then, every year on my birthday, everyone looked forward to Sarah's famous cupcakes. I was respected. People listened to me. I knew my work mattered, and I knew I was doing it well. Every quarter, I got good reviews. I was invited to mentor junior employees. Once, at a company-wide meeting, my boss said, "If we had another Sarah, we'd have already doubled our profits." I laughed then, but inside, it felt so warm. I felt like I belonged. I had a plan. A promotion in a year. Then a mortgage? Maybe a better car? I wasn't dreaming about millions. I dreamed of stability and respect. A calm, confident life. And back then, it felt like everything was on the right track. I knew what I wanted, and I knew I was moving toward it. I had no idea how close the storm was, or how fast everything I'd built over years could collapse overnight. It all started with an email. Subject: changes in leadership. At first, I didn't think much of it. Well, a new director, these things happen. We live in the real world, business is business. A week later, he was introduced. Michael. Dry, confident, with a perfect haircut, and the look of someone who knew at 10 years old that he would be making millions. He came from a huge corporation in New York, one of those places where no one cares about your name, only the numbers. HR said he'll help us scale up, take the company to the next level. But from day one, it felt like he wasn't really one of us. Like he was above us, looking down on us. He never greeted the team. He never held a one-on-one with any of the managers. In meetings, he was the only one speaking, always about KPIs, cost-cutting, process optimization. As if we had a problem. But we didn't. We worked smoothly. People were invested. Results were growing. We weren't perfect, but we were alive. Then the really strange thing started. He introduced new rules. Everything had to go through him. Every little thing needed approval, even buying a Zoom subscription. He canceled flexible hours, even though that was our saving grace during the pandemic. He banned working from home without his personal permission. Reports appeared daily, detailed. Who did what, when, and how much, as if we were all suspects. It seemed to me he didn't trust anyone. But most of all, he didn't trust people like me, those who had worked there before him. In morning meetings, it was like he didn't even notice us, the people who had built the company over the years. He talked to the new hires, to those he'd brought in from his previous company. With us, he was polite but cold. Like we were a burden, a temporary burden. Once he called me legacy staff. I didn't get what it meant at first. Then I did, not experienced employee, but a leftover from the past. And from that moment on, a strange feeling settled inside me. Like I was standing on the edge of something. Something was coming, but no one spoke about it out loud. We exchanged looks with colleagues, we all felt it. Something was wrong. He was up to something. But I tried to hold on. I had invested too much in this place. I didn't want to be paranoid. I didn't want to believe it was about me. I thought, maybe this is just a transition period. New style, new rules. It will all settle down. Because we're a team, right? I had no idea how soon I'd be shown just how wrong I was. After months of constant pressure, the Christmas party felt like a breath of fresh air. An island of normalcy. Something that was supposed to bring us together, even if just for a little while. Every year, our company hosted cozy parties, no pretense, but full of heart. Catering, cocktails, a DJ with a retro playlist, dancing in the hotel ballroom. It wasn't about reports or quarterly goals, but about people, about us. We laughed, exchanged little gifts through a secret Santa system, took photos by the Christmas tree. It was a moment when we could just be ourselves. This year, the party was set for the 15th of December. A big hotel in downtown Austin. A hall decorated with golden garlands, candles, and a Christmas tree taller than a person. It seemed like everything was as usual. Almost. Many hesitated should they go or not. The office atmosphere was tense. People were afraid to say too much, joke in the chat, or linger in the coffee area. Some had already received warnings. A couple of people were quietly let go without explanations. But still, we hoped that, at least for this one evening, we'd remember who we are, what brought us together. We decided we're going. The whole team, even Julia, who always avoided parties. We wanted to show that we were still here, still together. And honestly, I hoped maybe he would see that we're not just legacy staff. We are the soul of this company. I picked my dress like I was going on a date. With warm excitement. I wanted to look decent. I tied my hair up, put on makeup, and for the first time in 6 months, wore heels. I caught myself thinking, Sarah, are you nervous? The hotel lobby was already buzzing. People with glasses, sparkling dresses, suits, music. I saw a familiar face tired, but still smiling. We hugged, laughed, made toasts. For a couple of hours, everything felt like before. The DJ played Mariah Carey. Some were already dancing. Others talked about vacation plans. We stood at the cocktail bar, joking, and for a moment I thought, maybe everything will be okay after all. Then he walked into the hall. Michael. In a perfect suit, with that same flawless expression. Around him his new team from New York, wearing designer clothes, faces full of smugness. He walked past us, didn't even nod. Just as if we didn't exist. And I felt, not anxiety, not even anger, but cold. A kind of inner chill, like the air in the room dropped a few degrees. Colleagues exchanged glances. Smiles faded. Someone nervously took a sip of wine. The music kept playing, but the atmosphere changed, barely noticeable, but unmistakable. Something was wrong. I didn't know then that this night would stay with me forever. That at this very party, under glowing garlands and clinking glasses, my life would split in two. After I was fired, I moved into a small apartment in a different part of the city. Alone. Without a job. Without support. It felt like the whole world had shrunk down to the 4 walls of my room. In the first month, I barely left the house. Every day started and ended the same way, emptiness and silence. I lost my sense of purpose, felt like I'd lost myself. It felt like I was betrayed not just at work, but in life. People I had worked side by side with for years suddenly disappeared. Even those closest to me felt like strangers. As if I had ceased to exist for them. Trust shattered into pieces. I kept asking myself, why me? Why did this happen to me? What did I do wrong? Sometimes tears just rolled down my cheeks, and I couldn't stop them. Through the fog of depression, I tried to find any light, any small spark of hope. But there was none. Only cold and emptiness. That was my rock bottom. And I didn't know how to climb out. I don't remember how I left the hotel. Honestly, I don't think I even said goodbye. I just got up, walked past the dance floor, past the bar, past the Christmas tree where we all took photos a year ago, and stepped out into the night. The cold Austin air slapped my face like a punch. And there I was, still standing on the steps, in my dress, in heels, stuck in that ridiculous party after the verdict. My head was buzzing. My ears were pounding. And one phrase he said into the microphone kept ringing in my mind. We thank everyone who has been with us on this journey. But now it's time to move forward without ballast. Ballast? He called us ballast. Said it into the microphone, in front of me, in front of everyone. Then he dropped my name like an unwanted Jira sticker. People like Sarah were important in the early days, but the time of the old guard is over. Cold, emotionless. And the music started playing again, like nothing had happened. I made it to my car. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my keys. And in that silence in the dark parking lot, I suddenly cried. At first, quietly. Then, like everything broke loose. Not from pain, from humiliation, from the utter meaninglessness of what had just happened. I had worked there 5 years. And this? No letter, no conversation. At a party, in front of colleagues, like a joke. That very night, messages started coming in. The first was from Julia. That was insane. You heard that right, didn't you? Then Eric. He went too far. You're not alone. That was disgusting. And more. And more. People who had been silent for months suddenly sent me sympathy and support. But I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just lay on the couch in my dress, with smeared makeup, staring at a single point. Feeling like I had been erased in one evening. And in that moment, something inside me began to change. I thought, you didn't reset me, you just set me free. But anger was far away, for now there was only emptiness. Then in the morning came the letter. Cold, without a single human word. We hereby notify you of contract termination as of date due to restructuring. No thank you, no good luck, no signature. I reread it. Twice. 3 times. You know, sometimes you get news and it just doesn't register. Then click. I got up, washed my face, wiped off the last of my mascara, and looked at myself in the mirror. For the first time in a long time, I didn't see a manager or employee of the month or ballast. I saw a woman who had been tried to be broken, but instead awakened. 2 days had passed since the party. I barely left the house. Not because I was hiding, just I didn't know who I was anymore. You know, when you're suddenly thrown out of your own life like that, you don't fall. You just hang in the air, not knowing where to land. All that time, I kept replaying that moment of humiliation over and over. How he looked right through me. How everyone froze. How the music kept playing like nothing had happened. And then, on the 3rd day, Chris wrote to Mimi, former colleague from marketing. Sarah, I'm sorry this happened. By the way, I still have a story from the party. You can hear what he said about you. Want me to send it? I didn't reply right away. A story. A video. Did he really say that? Or did I imagine it? 5 minutes later, the video was in my hands. I played it. Background noise, laughter, music. And then his voice, into the mic. Some people, like Sarah, were important in the early days, but the company can't carry ballast. My heart sank. But at the same time, something clicked. I no longer felt shame. This wasn't about me. It was about him, about the system, about how often we experienced loyal, not one of their kind are just quietly pushed out. Silently, powerlessly, with no consequences. And I decided, no, it wouldn't be that simple. I opened my laptop, found a law firm specializing in employment law, there were a few in Austin. Booked an online consultation. The next day, I was on Zoom with a woman named Melinda. She listened carefully, asked questions. When I told her about the party, she just raised an eyebrow. You're serious? He called you ballast? In front of people? I nodded. She asked me to send the video. 15 minutes later, she said, termination without documentation, without explanation, public humiliation, after 5 years of work? This could very well be age and experience discrimination, especially if you're not the only experienced employee quietly pushed out. Something inside me woke up. Not a thirst for revenge. Not anger. But the right to be heard. I opened LinkedIn. Still, with trembling hands. Clicked Create Post. and wrote, "5 years ago, I joined company name as a project manager. I was there through periods of growth and crisis, built processes, supported the team, trained new employees. On Friday, at the Christmas party, the new director announced that my work was no longer relevant. He called me ballast in front of my colleagues. 2 days later, I received my termination notice." I added, "I'm not writing this out of anger. I'm writing to state the facts. This is not happening only to me. People are being squeezed out, removed, erased, and too often in silence. I wasn't asking for support. I wasn't asking for revenge. I was simply putting a period." And I clicked post. A blue spinning circle appeared on the screen. "Then, your post has been published." I closed my laptop, took a deep breath, and for the first time in days, I felt like I'd done the right thing. I woke up at 7 a.m. to my phone vibrating. At first, just one notification, then another, then a call. I didn't understand what was happening until I opened LinkedIn. The post I'd written the night before had already racked up 38,000 views. People were reacting, commenting, so many hundreds. Some just wrote, "This is outrageous. I'm sorry you had to go through this." But then came other comments, deeper, louder. One was from a woman named Karen, an HR director from Seattle. "This isn't just rudeness. It's a violation of corporate ethics and potentially discrimination. You have every reason to file a complaint with the EEOC." I didn't know what EEOC was. I Googled it. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. A federal agency where you can report unfair dismissal or discrimination. The next comment was from a Texas labor lawyer. "If you have the video and the termination wasn't properly documented beforehand, you might have a case. I can advise you." There were more and more. Experts, journalists, former HR people. People writing not just "I sympathize," but "This needs to be exposed. This can't be ignored. Where was the union protection?" And then messages started coming into my inbox from former coworkers. One guy named Trevor, who left a month ago, wrote, "Sarah, you have no idea how important it is that you wrote this. I left voluntarily, but only because he pushed me to the edge. Took my project without explanation, handed it to an intern. I stayed silent. But now I see this isn't about me. It's about them." Another woman, Joanna, who left quietly after 8 years, sent me a long message. "He called me a relic of the past, removed my project from the internal showcase. I was scared it was just me. Now I see he was systematically getting rid of us, those who built the company from scratch." Every new comment, every new message, seemed to screw strength back into my spine. I was not alone. I was not ballast. I was their fear. I was the truth they tried to stomp out publicly. And now that truth was out. The next day, my post was featured on an HR blog on Medium. Then a journalist from the Houston Chronicle picked it up. He messaged me, "If you're willing to talk, I want to tell your story. This isn't the first live firing case, but maybe the first with this kind of impact." Do you know which comment got the most likes? It was short. Simply, "She is not ballast. She is the backbone you broke. But she's not yours and never will be." I read it and tears rolled down my cheeks. But these were no longer tears of pain. They were tears of freedom. And a beginning. A week had passed since that post. 7 days and my whole reality changed. I wasn't seeking revenge. I just wanted it not to be hidden in the shadows. I wanted him and people like him to know public humiliation doesn't just disappear without a trace. And, it seemed, for the first time in a long while, someone actually heard me. On Monday, Trevor called me again, that same guy from marketing. He said quietly, "You won't believe it, but last night the board of directors posted a message on our internal portal." I sat down. "What?" "The board. Those people we never see but who control our fates from above." Trevor said, "They've launched an internal investigation based on anonymous complaints. They mentioned media reports causing public concern. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The next day, TechCrunch wrote about it. Brief, emotionless, but with one clear sentence. According to a social media post by a former employee, the newly appointed director publicly fired her at a company party. Video of the incident is circulating online. The board of directors has begun an inquiry. My name wasn't mentioned, but everyone knew it was me. Then it started snowballing. Glassdoor. The company's rating dropped from 4.3 to 3.1 in 4 days. People who had stayed silent for years began writing. The new management is destroying the culture. A culture of fear. I support Sarah wherever she goes. I received a letter from an HR specialist named Emily. She no longer worked there. She wrote, "Sarah, I was at that party. I was ashamed for not speaking up. But now, I'm proud to know you." And then the most unexpected thing. An email to my personal inbox. Official. With the company logo. From Corporate Communications. Subject. Request for conversation regarding recent incident. They wrote that the board is concerned about how the incident was handled. That the company does not support behavior that humiliates employees. That they would like to talk if I'm willing and hear my perspective personally. My heart was pounding. I sat staring at the screen, thinking, they're scared. They realize the world is no longer silent. That one woman, no title. No power can be louder than an entire PR department. I forwarded the email to my lawyer, Melinda. She wrote one word back. Noted. Publicly humiliated, then quietly apologized to. We're not rushing. It was like a slow-motion movie. The whole system that once wiped me out like dust was now trying to talk as equals. Irony? It took a wave of viral support, dozens of stories, a rating crash, and a scandal just for them to admit something went wrong. And I sat there with a cup of coffee, in pajamas. No job, no title, but with the most important thing, me voice. And the realization, I'm no longer asking permission to be heard. The morning started with a push notification. As usual, I was sitting in a cafe with my laptop checking the news. Then, suddenly a message from a former colleague. Have you seen this? They released an official statement. My heart dropped. My hands trembled. I opened the company's website. Right on the homepage, a statement from the board of directors. In blue font, cold corporate language, but every word louder than hundreds of rejection letters. We confirm that during the holiday event, behavior occurred that did not align with our corporate values. After an internal review, we concluded that the actions taken by a member of management were unacceptable. We apologize to those affected. Measures have been taken. An independent investigation is currently underway. This was not just words. This was an acknowledgement. Clear, sharp, and finally loud. At first, I didn't believe it. I reread it 3 times. Then, I cried. Right there in the cafe. Just covered my face with my hands and cried, not from pain, but from the fact that sometimes truth does find its way out. But that wasn't all. 2 days later, an all-hands meeting was scheduled. An internal meeting with all employees invited. A town hall. A live broadcast. I no longer worked there, but someone leaked the recording online. I watched it. On the screen, a familiar scene, a large hall, the company flag, employees' backs. And him. The new director. Once arrogant, aggressive. Now standing at the microphone. In a suit, eyes lowered. He was silent for almost 15 seconds. Then he said, I want to begin with an apology. My behavior at the corporate event was unprofessional. I made a mistake. I let the company down. And especially the person who was directly affected. His voice trembled. He spoke slowly, without the usual phrases like, if anyone felt offended. He admitted he was wrong. He admitted he fired someone publicly, emotionally, without warning. And in that moment, I realized I didn't just win. I changed something in the system. He stepped down the next day. Officially, temporarily suspended pending the investigation. But everyone knew he was never coming back. And me? That evening, I poured myself a glass of wine, lit some candles, and wrote another post. Once, I sat in this office with a racing heart, afraid to be inconvenient. Today, I'm proud I was exactly that. Sometimes justice is slow, but it comes. Not always immediately, not always in the form we expect, but it comes. Hundreds of comments, thousands of reposts. People wrote, "You've restored our faith that honesty doesn't always drown." And I no longer feel fired. I feel heard, free, and dangerous to those who are used to humiliating in silence. Several weeks have passed since that storm. And finally, I received something I couldn't even dream of in those dark days. An offer came from another company. Respected, with a reputation that inspires, with a team that values people. Better conditions than before. Fair salaries, flexible hours. Attention to culture and growth. Simply a place where I can thrive and contribute. I breathed a sigh of relief and thought, sometimes the most painful humiliation is exactly what you need to break free from a toxic cycle. Because while you're in it, you don't see a way out. But once the doors close behind you, new windows open, new horizons appear. I don't want anyone to think, "See, she got fired, so I should stay silent too." Number? If you are treated unfairly, speak up. Don't be afraid. Your voice is power. Your story can change not only your life, but the whole system around you. It can make those who've grown accustomed to impunity stop and think. Each of us deserves respect. Each of us deserves honest treatment. And you know what's most important? When you speak up, when you don't hide, you're not just protecting yourself. You're opening the way for others. You become the light leading change. I'm not here to complain. I'm here to say, stand up, embrace your pain, and let it fuel you. Don't let it break, you let it make you stronger. I don't know what comes next, but I do know this. I am no longer the woman I was before. I am free. And that is the greatest gift I could receive. Thank you for listening. And remember, you deserve to be heard too.